My name is Emily Carter, and I'm a PhD student at Stanford University, or at least I was supposed to be. When I walked onto that sprawling California campus in the fall of 2022, I was 24, wide-eyed, and clutching a scholarship like it was my ticket to the stars. I'd grown up in Nampa, Idaho, a speck of a town where the biggest thrill was the annual rodeo, and Stanford felt like a cathedral of possibility. Red tile roofs, palm trees swaying in the breeze, the hum of brilliance in the air. I was here to study American literature, to carve my name into the world of academia with a thesis on modernist poetry. But by May 21st, 2024, that dream had morphed into a nightmare I couldn't wake from. That night, I uploaded a 58-minute video to X, my hand shaking as I hit post, and watched it ignite a firestorm that torched my life, Stanford's reputation, and the career of my advisor, Professor Gregory Walton. This is my story, a descent into betrayal, a war for survival, and a reckoning with the monsters who hide behind prestige. It started innocently enough, or so I thought. My first meeting with Walton was in September 2022, a crisp morning where the fog still clung to the Stanford Quad. His office in the English department was a shrine to intellect. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a heavy oak desk, framed photos of him with Pulitzer winners and Ivy League deans. He was 65, tall and wiry, with silver hair swept back and a voice that carried the weight of decades, smooth, deliberate, commanding. His resume was a legend's tale. BA from Montana State in 1979, PhD from Yale, stints at NYU and UC Berkeley before landing at Stanford in 1995. He'd chaired the department from 2008 to 2013, published a dozen books on narrative theory. Men at over 40 PhDs who now rule the academic roost, Harvard, Princeton, you name it. When he skimmed my proposal and said, "This is potential Emily," I felt like I'd been anointed. I didn't see the trap. The first hint came a few months later, in December. I'd been wrestling with my health, psoriasis, a chronic beast that left my skin raw and flaking, especially when stress piled on. Eating was torture. Every bite burned like acid. I told Walton about it during a check-in, hoping for some slack. He nodded, sympathetic, or so I thought. Then one afternoon, he called me to his office to discuss revisions. The door clicked shut, and he leaned across his desk, his gray eyes locking onto mine. "Emily, just a little kiss, just try it," he said, his tone light, teasing, like we were sharing a secret. My stomach dropped. I stammered, "No, I can't," and stumbled back, fumbling for the doorknob. He laughed, waved it off. "Relax, I'm kidding." But his eyes weren't kidding. They glinted with something dark, something that made my skin crawl long after I fled. I should have run then, but I didn't. I was too naive, too desperate to believe it was a one-off. Walton was my ticket, my advisor, my gatekeeper. Without him, my PhD was dead. So I stayed, convincing myself I'd imagine the hunger in his voice. That was my first mistake. By spring 2023, the cracks were widening. Walton's jokes turned into propositions, sly and persistent. He'd summon me to his office after hours. Always some excuse. A draft, a review, a rare text to fetch from the library stacks. The campus would be quiet, the halls dim, and I'd find him waiting, tie loosened, a glass of scotch in hand. "We could be close. Emily, really close," he'd say, leaning back in his chair, his voice a velvet snare. "Think of it as a partnership. I've got resources, grants, archives, connections at the MLA. You'd sail through this program, land a tenure-track job before you're 30. It was a siren song, and he knew it. Every grad student dreams of that golden path. Publications, prestige, a cushy gig at some leafy college. All I had to do was say yes. But yes to what? He never said outright. Not then. It was all implication, a dance of words that left me queasy. "You're smart, Emily. You get how this works." His smile was sharp, predatory. I'd shake my head, mutter excuses, boyfriend, boundaries, anything to dodge the trap. Each no fueled his irritation. "You're wasting an opportunity," he'd snap, his tone hardening. I don't offer this to just anyone. I'd leave those meetings trembling, the weight of his gaze clinging to me like damp fog. I grew up on a steady diet of honesty. My dad a mechanic, my mom a nurse, both straight shooters. Trading my integrity for a leg up wasn't in my DNA. But Walton didn't care about my small-town morals. My refusals turned him cold, and that's when the real punishment began. By fall 2023, Walton's resentment was a living thing, coiled and vicious. He buried me in work. 18-hour days that bled into 20, a relentless grind as projects stacked atop my own. I'd transcribed his lectures, dig through obscure journals for his next book, all while scrambling to keep my thesis alive. Sleep became a rumor. I'd crash in my tiny Palo Alto apartment, a studio off University Avenue, catching 3 hours if I was lucky. My psoriasis flared worse than ever, red, angry patches creeping up my arms, my neck stinging with every move. I'd plead for a break, explain how I was drowning. "You're not cutting it," he'd bark, his voice like a whip. "What kind of student are you?" He'd sabotage me, too. My thesis topic, modernist poetry, got axed one day, no warning. "Switched to post-colonial lit," he said, smirking. "Broader scope." Months of work trashed. I'd rebuild, only for him to flip it again, back to modernism, then to narrative theory. Each shift was a fresh hell of research, a mountain I couldn't climb fast enough. "You're behind," he'd say, leaning back in his chair, savoring my panic. "I decide who graduates here, Emily. Don't forget that." It was a threat, plain and brutal, and it sank into me like lead. I was breaking. Nights blurred into days. I'd stare at my laptop, eyes burning, hands shaking from too much coffee and too little rest. My boyfriend, Jake, a software engineer in San Jose, saw the wreckage. "Quit, Em." He'd urge over takeout, his voice soft with worry. "He's killing you." But quitting meant losing everything. 2 years of work, my scholarship, my shot at a career I bled for. So I stayed, a moth pinned under Walton's thumb, praying he'd tire of me. He didn't tire. He escalated. May 21st, 2022 was the first time he crossed the line hard. I'd gotten a text that morning. "Meet me at 7 p.m. Don't let good opportunities slip away." I thought it was about my thesis. Stupid, hopeful me. I walked into his office, the campus dark and empty, and the door clicked shut behind me. He was on me in seconds, arms wrapping around me, his breath hot on my neck, lips crashing against mine. I shoved him off, heart pounding, my voice a ragged no. He stepped back, grinning like it was a game. "Come on, Emily, relax." I fumbled for my phone, hit record mid-chaos, catching his next words. "Look at me. I'm still in shape, right? Muscles holding up for an old guy." Then the pitch. "Stick with me, and I'll get you published. Top journals, no sweat. You've got ambition. I can see it." I ran, his laughter echoing down the hall. Later, alone, I played the recording, his voice a knife twisting in my gut. He'd warned me, too. "If you talk, it'll ruin you, too. Keep quiet, and no one has to know." Fear choked me silent. Walton wasn't just some creep. He was a titan. Stanford adored him. His alumni network spanned the globe. Who would believe me? A nobody from Idaho over him? For 2 years. I swallowed it. He kept pushing, groping me in his office, quizzing me about Jake, praising my purity when I said we didn't live together. "Kids today are so open," he'd muse, eyes gleaming. "You could be too." I'd deflect, and he'd punish. More work, more insults. "You're ungrateful," he'd hiss. "I got exclusive archives, stuff you'd never access without me. Say yes, and it's yours." "Yes to what?" "A real partnership," he'd say, winking. "Body and mind, the full deal." I'd gag, refuse, and he'd smirk, knowing I was trapped. My dad found out in March 2024. I'd broken down on a call home, sobbing about the workload, letting slip Walton's favors. Dad drove 12 hours from Nampa, stormed Stanford and confronted him. Walton played dumb, all polished denial, but Dad saw through it. "He's a snake, Em," he told me later, his voice tight with rage. "You've got to fight." I wanted to, God, I did, but the fear was a vice. Until May 2024, when I couldn't take it anymore. May 17th, 2024 was the final straw. Walton had called me in to discuss my progress. I recorded it, instinct kicking in. He tore into me. My thesis was sloppy, my effort pathetic. I begged for relief, explained the 20-hour days, the exhaustion eating me alive. I just want to graduate, I said, voice cracking. He sneered. You'll graduate when I say so. Help me with my work, or good luck in December. December was a prelim defense deadline. He was dangling my future like a noose. I pushed back, and he snapped, Fine, wait and see. A threat, cold and clear. For days later, May 21st, I snapped to. I sat in my apartment, a shoebox off El Camino Real. The walls closing in. My skin burned, my mind raced. 2 years of his hands, his voice, his power, crushing me. I couldn't breathe under it anymore. So I grabbed my phone, my passport, and filmed 58 minutes, unscripted, raw. I held up my ID, named him Professor Gregory Walton, and spilled it all. The harassment, the coercion, the sabotage. I played the recordings, his bribes, his threats, his smug, kiss me taunts. I showed texts, cryptic summons, veiled promises. Stanford needs to investigate. I demanded, give me a new advisor. I'm telling the truth, and I'll face any consequences if I'm lying. My voice shook, but I hit post on X and the world shifted. By midnight, hashtag Stanford Scandal was trending. My video hit 1 million views in hours. Retweets a tidal wave. Rage, support, shock. This can't happen at Stanford, users screamed. Fire that bastard. Others dug into Walton's past, his Yale tenure. Whispers of complaints at Berkeley hushed up by powerful pals. My phone buzzed nonstop. My inbox flooded, half cheering me on, half calling me a liar, a slut, a gold digger. I curled up on my couch, heart racing, watching the chaos unfold. Stanford couldn't ignore it. By noon on May 22nd, they issued a statement. We're aware of allegations against Professor Walton and are investigating with urgency. That night, they announced a task force. I didn't sleep. How could I? X was a battlefield, and I was the flag. Walton's bio got dissected. Born 1959 in Bozeman, Montana, a ranch kid turned scholar. 2 marriages, a daughter in her 30s, a son at Palo Alto High, and E.H. Grants, a 2021 San Francisco Humanities Prize. He'd been untouchable until now. May 23rd, the verdict dropped. Stanford's probe, blitzed fast under public glare, confirmed everything. Walton's action violated educator ethics, university policy, and basic decency, they said. They fired him, stripped his titles, banned him from campus, and pushed to revoke his teaching license. Palo Alto PD opened a case. Harassment, maybe assault. I heard through the grapevine he'd tried calling me, begging me to retract, threatening my degree. Too late. That night, I posted again. Thank you. I wrote, voice steady on video. To everyone who shared this, to Stanford for acting fast, I believe in this place. It's why I fought. The department rallied, new advisor, counseling, promises I graduate on time. My parents drove down, hugged me tight. Jake stayed up with me, whispering I'd done the right thing, but the scars don't fade. Walton's voice haunts me, those promises, those taunts. I wonder how many others he broke, silenced by his clout. Rumors swirl. Berkeley in the 90s, a student hushed with a payoff. No proof, but it gnaws at me. This wasn't just my win. It was a flare in the dark. Power doesn't make you good. It just amplifies what's there. Walton's mask was prestige, and I ripped it off. Stanford's reeling, auditing itself, and I'm still here, battered but standing. That's my truth, and it's enough.